So I mean, I want to, you and I've never met, man. I want to bring it right back to the beginning. I want to, when does Vman become Vman, and what are some of your earliest musical memories? Did you come from a musical household, or what's the story here?
Only musical person in the family, but my parents very early on, they were like, got to get into music. That was like I don't know. I think maybe they wanted to do it when they were younger, but they didn't. It didn't kind of happen for them. So they wanted at least their kids to maybe. Because I got a sister as well. She kind of was musical, but not really. She kind of gave that away.
That's that mic can come just a little closer to you.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
There we go. How's that? So yeah, we did. They took me to. I started on clarinet. That was like the first thing, which was not very rock and roll, but it kind of got you into music. It kind of understood like notation and stuff like that. Kind of got fed up of that, went into piano, which I kind of took seriously. Piano was one of those things where, if you've had music ideas or a melody in your head, you can easily do it. You can just play it out on a keyboard. Whereas I found like with guitar later on in life that wasn't as easy, I found. But did piano, did like School of Music, and it just kind of like progressed that way. But then classical guitar kind of came into my life, and which kind of like ties in probably later to like the heavy metal stuff, like neoclassical and stuff like that, and shredding. So I don't know. I mean, it was classical guitar kind of when that came about. It was like that's when I was serious about music. So I'd probably say that was from the age of like 11. I took it like as a this is kind of where I want to go, and I knew that that's what I wanted. I know it's a young age to kind of commit to something like that mentally, but I feel like that was the path,
So by 11, you're already like fully, you're learning musical theory, and you're already getting some groundwork done with piano, and then it's 11, we switched to classical.
Yeah, pretty much. And then secondary school, then you started noticing there was like little groups, and everyone had their kind of little pockets of stuff that they listened to, and I think I kind of stumbled across like people that were listening to metal from like the older years and stuff. I always kind of looked older than the age that I was, so I kind of like always hung around with people that was like 3 or 4 years older than me. So I kind of got into heavy metal pretty 13 or 14 was like listening to Guns N' Roses. I know it's not heavy metal, but it led to other things. You know what I mean? It was a stepping stone. So.
Appetite for destruction is everybody's gateway drug. Let's be real.
I mean, for me, I think it was Use Your Illusion 2.
There you go.
That was like, there's some serious work going on in that record, I think. But
there's big tunes on that. Big tunes on 2. I like 2 better than Illusion 1.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think Appetite actually came afterwards for me.
Interesting.
It was just because I didn't have any. No one was like, "You got to listen to this one now." There was none of that when you were like 13 or 14. It was like, here's a fucking bunch of shit. Listen to it, So it was kind of like process of elimination of what you want to listen to and agree on. So that was, my brain went that way.
Was music always like extracurricular, or were you playing in band as well at school and doing everything that went with it?
Funny story. Yeah, I did. Kind of wasn't really into Nirvana at all, but there were like small little bands growing up kind of at the school, and I kind of went to this bunch that were like, they were into Nirvana and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, I can get into this. And I think we did like a school show, and I was, okay, yeah, I know those songs, no worries about it. And I think it was Teen Spirit and then Come As You Are, but I played the same solo in both songs because I just wasn't really into it. But I just thought the same solo fit twice, but it did actually, so that was kind of funny.
You're just a huge Nirvana fan here. So you'd already picked Team Heavy Metal over grunge.
I think it was, something came up the other day on Instagram. Someone tagged me in a flyer. It was Ozzfest in the UK at Milton Keynes Bowl, and it was like Pantera were playing, Foo Fighters and Cold Chamber and stuff like that, Fear Factory, and that was the first pretty much concert I went to. And I was, once again, I was like me, really young with dudes that were like 3 or 4 years older than me. And like, didn't drink, wasn't just there, just go, whoa, you know, what the hell's a fucking mosh pit and shit. So, you know.
You were hanging with the bad kids. You were hanging with the bad kids early on.
I was. Yeah. So.
As Vman, like, by the time, like, you're kind of out of high school, though, and starting what I believe is, you know, some of your first serious bands, you're already like super into gear and an accomplished guitarist. Like there has to be like a catalyst to you, like really getting into electric guitar and really getting into amps and shit.
It was the first band I ever did was from guys from school. It was like a hardcore, post-hardcore-ish kind of band, like Snapcase meets like Wonking Down, a little bit of Earth Crisis and stuff like that. Because I kind of went to that camp as well. It was like a bit of like the hardcore stuff, the aggression of it, you know, like that was appealing to me, but I also was listening to Pantera and, you know, stuff like that. So it was that type of music was like, turn up then. I was like, wait a second, like everything I was learning, like Bach lute suites was kind of very like basic to it, but there was like the aggression of just knocking out riffs and stuff was what drove me to that kind of, you know, the punk or hardcore aspect. But yeah, this band Incoherence that I was in, you know, we played shows with a band called Wonking Down, and, you know, we were like 17 years old and turning up to like our first ever like gig, and it's like a hardcore show. There's like 200 people there and no one knows who the fuck you are. But then there's this band there, but, you know, we'd kind of pushed into a scene where, you know, we were regularly playing with bands like Knuckledust, Stampin Ground, kind of like UK hardcore heroes. Really,
yeah, you're like 18 years old and already playing some, you know, top tier bills.
Well, I mean, even a bit. I'd probably say about 16, we were doing stuff like that. I'd say, yeah. And you know, we kind of built up a name, and then I musically kind of outgrew it. And that's not to sound condescending or anything, but I wanted to go more, you know, technical. And I think at that time I was listening to like Yingwei and Steve Vai, Aldi Meola and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to get into the really fast stuff. And I started Cry for Silence with a bunch of other friends. One guy from school and then the rest were dudes from outside that were in the scene or whatever. And then that was it. And it just kind of, it flourished from there really. And once again, even with being in that band, we were like super melodic, but hardcore and heavy, but I was just like, you know, I wanted to get more technical with it. And I suppose, you know, like I outgrew that one as well, you know, and that's when we kind of like parted ways probably. I think our album came out in 2008, and then I was like, that's it. You know, I was done with it.